Oh, the nerve of you to apply to our company from a college of your caliber. And you're poor and fatherless too, huh? Honestly, you probably haven't had any proper education. This interview is a waste of time. Just leave already.
Getting a job is the first step in building a better life. A respected mentor once told me that it's important to build a career and walk the path you aim for. However, my job hunting experience was far from a step up. It was an unfair event that denied everything I had built up in my life so far. My name is Craig Nelson, a 22-year-old senior in college. Life was really tough for my family until I went to college. My father was a complete loser, always drinking at home and being violent towards my mom. He was often not at home and had other women too. Eventually, his excessive drinking caught up with him, and he collapsed and died. Despite everything, my mom seemed to love him, and she cried for days after his death. I didn't like my father, but when we parted ways like this, I remembered how kind he was when I was little, and I also felt sad for a while, crying. Seeing me cry, my mom decided, "We can't go on like this. I'll work and raise my child properly." She started working to support us. Since then, she covered all our living expenses and my school fees with her salary. This happened right after I graduated from elementary school. So, from the time I entered middle school, I was saying things like,
Mom, after I graduate from middle school, I'll work. I'll help you.
Craig, you don't need to think about that. Leave it to me.
every time I mentioned working after middle school, she would tell me,
A student's job is to study. What you build up now will shape your future. Focus on laying a solid foundation.
however, as soon as I entered high school, I started looking for part-time jobs and began working multiple jobs to earn money. The managers and colleagues at my part-time jobs understood my family situation and arranged my shifts to accommodate my school and other jobs. Though there was some sympathy, their consideration allowed me to successfully continue my high school life, working continuously throughout my freshman and sophomore years of high school. By the time I became a senior in high school, everyone around me was thinking about their future. I had planned to look for a job after high school graduation, but
Craig, if you want to go to college, just say so. I've been saving money for you.
since my father passed away, my mom worked tirelessly. I also gave her the money I earned from my part-time jobs, but she never touched it and saved it all in my name. My constant worry about money led my mom to show me the bank book. "What? You've saved this much?" I was surprised at how much she had saved. Thanks to her efforts, I was able to go to college. On the day of my college acceptance announcement, my mom was overjoyed and celebrated with a feast of her best homemade dishes. "Thank you, Mom. I'll study hard in college and get a job at a great company to support you. I'll make sure you have an easier life." Even though I got into college, I couldn't afford private universities because of the high tuition fees. Since our home was far from the city, attending a university in New York would require rent fees. So, for financial reasons, I enrolled in a local public college. Public colleges had much lower tuition fees, and the money saved could go towards living expenses and savings. Once in college, I dedicated myself to my studies, making sure not to waste any time. From my first year, I researched career advancing certifications and started studying for certifications in addition to my regular classes. I studied diligently to avoid failing any courses, and before I knew it, my senior year had arrived. It's already been 3 years since I graduated high school. Time flies. Time passed quickly, and it was time for me to start job hunting. I'll study hard in college and get a job at a great company to support you, Mom. I never forgot these words I said to my mom on the day of my college acceptance announcement. Secretly dreaming of applying to a big famous company in New York and making my mom proud, I soon realized the world wasn't that easy. Without passing the document screening, I kept applying to company after company. Without time to be disheartened by reality, I began searching for companies further and further away from the city that I might have a chance with. But I couldn't find a company that matched my qualifications. A job that would utilize what I learned in college, in a reasonably convenient location, and with a decent-sized company where I could see myself working long-term. I found a company I could commute to from my current home. The job matched my college studies, and the pay wasn't bad. However, there were rumors that the company had a bad reputation. A friend who was job hunting with me said, "If you're applying to that company, be prepared. I've heard the interviews are pretty rough." Apparently, on the surface, it looks like a normal company, but from the interview stage, it's clear that it's a pretty exploitative company. There have been some applicants to that company in the past, but even when they received jobs offers, they turned them down and went to other companies. Seriously? I thought I had found a good company, but I was a bit disheartened. While talking to my mom about job hunting, I mentioned this company and my hesitation about applying.
Just apply. Even that experience will be valuable. It will surely be useful in life.
Her words eased my mind, and I applied to that company. The company's name is White Wave Inc. It's a small to medium-sized leasing company that rents office supplies and equipment to other companies. I applied for a position in their IT department, a job related to computers, which matches my major. Since the company is small and my skills are a good fit, I felt a bit relieved as I took the document screening test. One busy day, I got a call that my mom had collapsed at her part-time job and was taken to the hospital. I was researching at college for my interview preparation, and I received the message on my way back and rushed to the hospital where my mom had been taken. When I arrived, I saw my mom in the waiting room, smiling apologetically. The examination was already over, and there was no need for hospitalization, so I was relieved. According to the doctor, it was due to overwork. Thank goodness. I was relieved that it wasn't serious and overwhelmed with the desire to free my mom from her hard work as soon as possible. Next to my mom was a man who had accompanied her.
I'm really glad it didn't turn into a hospitalization.
The man said with a kind smile that seemed familiar. I was about to thank him when my mom said,
Michael happened to be at the company at that time. He found me when I collapsed and brought me to the hospital.
When I heard his name, it didn't click right away, but he did look familiar.
I used to be helped a lot when you were little, Craig. You might not remember because you were so young.
Hearing that, I finally remembered. Michael Johnson. He was my father's an upperclassman from his student days, and he was a great help when my father faced that situation while running his own company in New York. I only remembered him as the man who often came to our house when I was in elementary school, but now his gentle smile matched my memories. "Oh, it's been a long time. Thank you for taking care of my mom." I felt a bit awkward as I thanked him, realizing I had forgotten and was late to express my gratitude.
Craig, you've grown so much. You were just this big the last time I saw you.
He chuckled, placing his hands on his hips. It was true. I had grown a lot since I was in elementary school. Yet, Michael remained the same, kindly supporting my mom. For a family like mine, without a father, having someone outside the family to support us was incredibly valuable. After my father passed away, Michael helped my mom find a job and even supported us financially for a while. My mom worked tirelessly at the company Michael introduced her to and tried to repay the living expenses he had lent us, but he steadfastly refused to accept it.
Since I offered it out of goodwill, you don't need to pay it back. Everyone needs help when they're in a tight spot.
How much that must have saved my mom. Ever since then, Michael has continued to support my family, and he helped my mom again this time. Hearing this for the first time, I felt like crying and thanked Michael repeatedly. I owe part of my current life to him. A week after passing the document screening, the interview day finally arrived. This was the first company where I had made it to the interview stage. The interview was scheduled to take place in the company's conference room. I arrived about 30 minutes early and spent the time in a nearby park. Even though I had prepared well, I was very nervous as it was my first interview. And there were rumors that it was an exploitative company. To shake off my anxiety, I told myself I'd be fine, and then noticed a cat sunbathing on a bench in the park. Watching the cat sleep so peacefully, I took out my phone and started taking pictures. When I called out, "Come here," the cat responded with a meow and came over. It was a very friendly cat. Petting the cute cat and taking videos, I felt my anxiety ease a bit. Before I knew it, it was 10 minutes before the interview time, so I hurriedly said goodbye to the cat and headed to the company. When I arrived at the interview venue, the other job applicants had already gathered. There were two others, a man with glasses who looked like an elite, and a woman on crutches. Relieved that I had made it on time, I waited for the interview to start. But what I saw during this first interview was beyond my imagination. It was a group interview, so the three of us were interviewed simultaneously. The elite-looking man's name was Matt Ingram. As soon as the interview started, it became clear that Matt was likely the son of someone in the company.
Well then, let's begin the interview. Oh Matt, thank you for coming.
This was the first thing said when the interview started. There were 3 interviewers, but the man in the middle, named David, did most of the talking.
We're really grateful that you're considering joining us, Matt. Securing talented individuals is a great benefit for any company.
The interviewer seemed to only be speaking to Matt, ignoring me and the other female applicant. Matt also ignored us and had a lively conversation with the interviewers. After about 10 minutes, the interviewer finally turned his attention to us.
Now, as for the other 2 besides Matt, we appreciate you coming, but we're not planning to hire you. Since you came all this way, though, we'll go through the motions of the interview.
What? My face stiffened. I realized this interview was a farce. They had already decided to hire Matt, but needed to interview other applicants as a formality. Matt was probably the son of an executive or someone in an important position at the company. That's why the interviewer was excessively flattering him.
So, Craig, is it? Wow, you dared to apply to our company from a college of your caliber. And you're poor and fatherless, huh?
Maybe it was a mistake to include my family situation in the self-promotion section along with my college activities because the interviewer belittled my entire background. Is this really an interview? I had never been mocked about my family environment or college so openly. I was stunned, staring at the interviewer, unable to speak.
Being raised by a single parent means you probably didn't get a proper education, huh? That's why you ended up at this level of a college.
I clenched my fists tightly on my knees and looked down, overwhelmed by the situation. This interview was pointless. I want to leave. But the interviewer's insults continued.
You're trying to promote yourself, but there are countless people like you. You don't seem to have any guts either.
No, I'll work hard and improve my skills.
Even if you work hard, someone with your low initial specs won't achieve much.
The interviewer tore up my resume and threw it in the trash. Matt and the other interviewers laughed at the situation. As I remembered my mom, who worked so hard, I couldn't tolerate the mockery of my family and efforts. I have worked hard. I've earned many certifications in college. You assume my specs are low, but isn't it important to grow and develop skills after joining a company? I couldn't help but retort.
You sure talk big. Well, we don't intend to hire you, so you can leave.
Then the interviewer turned to the other female candidate. Her name was Emily Blunt. She didn't seem to fit the company's ideal candidate either. She was mocked for the ranking of her university.
So, that leg of yours, is it a congenital disability and not a fracture?
Emily came to the interview with a cast and crutches. Apparently, her leg wasn't injured but was naturally shorter. Usually, she wore custom platform shoes to balance, but she couldn't wear them due to inflammation.
You see, this is a normal company. We can't accommodate someone with a disability like yours.
I usually don't use crutches and wear shoes that make it almost unnoticeable. It's an IT desk job, so it won't affect my work.
But if something happens, the company doesn't want to take the risk. It's problematic, even if you say it's fine.
Despite her efforts to explain, the interviewer laughed at her disability. Sure, hiring an employee with a disability requires some preparation, like ramps or wheelchair space. But she insisted she usually didn't need special accommodations. Yet they laughed at her, calling it a risk. Then the interviewer asked her,
By the way, do you have a boyfriend?
What?
I'm asking if you're seeing anyone. Women tend to leave soon after they get married or have children, which causes problems for us.
That's irrelevant right now.
It actually is relevant. Hiring women is troublesome because they leave quickly. By the way, despite your condition, have you ever done it with a guy?
She blushed and looked down. This isn't an interview anymore, it's a crime. A man in his 50s is using his position to sexually harass a young woman. I couldn't take it any longer. David, what the hell are you doing? This isn't an interview. What you're doing is a crime. What's the point of this interview? I didn't care about the interview anymore and confronted him. It wasn't about getting the job, I couldn't stand his attitude of belittling our lives. But it didn't seem to get through to him.
I'm not talking to you. Are you still here? If you keep this up, I might ask your college not to send any more candidates. We're not hiring you, so just leave.
My anger got the better of me, and I said something I hadn't planned to say. I wouldn't want to work here anyway. If you keep doing this, you'll regret it. One day, I'll make sure you get fired. You should be kicked out of this company. No, out of society. Even as I said this, David just looked at me with a mocking grin. I took Emily's hand and urged her to leave the room with me. She looked surprised at first, but she also couldn't stand being in that room any longer. She followed me out of the room. I was surprised by my own words, but I meant every word. People like Emily and me, who genuinely want to work hard, shouldn't be treated like this during the hiring process. But feeling the frustration of societal unfairness, we left the company. I didn't have a specific destination in mind, and it seemed she didn't either. We left the company silently and ended up at the park where I had waited before the interview. We sat on the swings, staring down. Duh, I have to start job hunting all over again, I muttered. She then spoke to me.
Thank you for what you did earlier.
No, I'm sorry for dragging you out so suddenly.
I was happy. It felt like you were voicing my thoughts, and it cleared away my anger and sadness.
I just said what I felt. We talked for a while in the park. Then a cat came up to her with a meow. It was the same cat I had petted before the interview. Does this cat stay here all the time?
What?
I played with him or her before the interview. Look. I took out my phone from my suit pocket to show her the video of me playing with the cat. Huh? The video. Has it been recording this whole time? It turned out the recording had been on the whole time. I had rushed to the interview and forgot to stop the recording. Oh man, my battery. I hope it lasts until I get home. I immediately checked the battery life on my phone. But this small mistake turned out to be an unexpected boon. When I stopped recording and played the video for Emily, it turned out that the entire interaction with the interviewer had been recorded on my phone. I quickly closed the video, not wanting to remember that ordeal. Then Emily grabbed my hand.
That video. It might be useful.
Huh? What do you mean? As I tried to forget the bad memory, she suggested an idea, and together we came up with a plan. After exchanging contact information with her, I went home and quickly shared the video on my social media. The video spread rapidly, receiving massive attention, and complaints flooded to the website of White Waving and phone lines. I didn't just share it on social media, I also posted the video on video sharing sites, showing the entire ordeal. As a result, former job applicants and employees came forward, revealing more about the dark side of White Waving. Criticisms like, the company condones sexual harassment, and black waving spread across various media outlets. The plan Emily and I devised was a huge success. White Waving was not only criticized online, but was also under significant pressure. One day, while I was relaxing at home, I received a phone call. Hello, this is Craig.
You, what have you done? Spreading that stuff everywhere.
I recognized David's angry voice on the other end.
And I had no idea you were acquainted with the president of our parent company.
This was something I learned after the interview. Michael's company in New York was actually the parent company of White Wave Inc. Most of the business of White Wave Inc. came from this parent company. After the interview incident, the parent company terminated their leasing contracts with White Wave Inc., forcing a major overhaul and staff restructuring. As a result, David, who was calling me, was fired. What I had said in a fit of anger had actually come true. White Wave Inc. was set to restart as a new company. Michael found out that White Wave Inc. was trending online and recognized my voice in the interview video. 2 days after posting the video, Michael contacted me to verify the facts. He was furious on my behalf and offered both Emily and me jobs at his company. I had kept in touch with Emily after uploading the video. When I told her about Michael's offer, she was eager to accept, and after graduating college, we both joined Michael's company. I currently work at the headquarters, but I hope to transfer to White Wave Inc. one day and transform it into a company where hard work is rewarded. Michael has become my second father. After my father's death, Michael supported my mom behind the scenes. He also helped me secure a job. When I got the job, Michael proposed to my mom, asking if he could continue taking care of her. She cried with joy, and they got married soon after. I was thrilled that my mom could finally be happy. Despite her disability, Emily's IT skills surpassed those of other employees. Her suggestions for systems accommodating people with disabilities earned her high praise. Maybe it was the bond from defeating a common enemy, but after joining the company, Emily and I often went out to dinner, talking about work and reminiscing about that time. And this year, I proposed to Emily. We got engaged, and once our lives stabilize a bit more, we plan to get married. The more I listened to Emily's stories, the more I respected her. She must have put in a lot of effort behind the scenes. Now, I even feel grateful to that interviewer, David. Because of him, I met Emily and learned important lessons about life as a working adult. I used to think my father was a terrible person, but if it weren't for him, I wouldn't have met Michael. And now, Michael is by our side as a father to us and a husband to my mom. My mom's words when I was hesitant about the interview were true. Everything is an experience that enriches your life. I plan to continue experiencing many things and turning them all into valuable lessons for my life.